Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne Allen, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action.
Conversation with Andrea Whitt on gifted multi-potentialities. I have a guest for you, you guys. You are not going to believe that Andrea is coming on the show today. She's with us and she is bringing her giftedness and her multi-potentialite ability. Andrea is an international touring artist. She plays multiple instruments, not in the exact way you would think, not different kinds of drums. I'll let her explain that to you. But she also is into art and fashion, and I don't even know what else. Here's what I know. She was introduced to me by a mutual friend. And the moment I met her, I'm like, oh, she is just amazing in her energy and presence. So I asked her to come on the show, and I'm delighted that she has said yes, take time out of her busy touring schedule to be with us and talk about what it's like living in her body with all of this creativity emerging. So welcome to the show, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here, and I have so many questions to start with, but I would like to hear a little bit, or let everybody give them a little bit of backstory of your musical talent and ability. Like, how is it that you play these amazing instruments that you wouldn't necessarily think are in kind of rock and roll bands, but you're in them? And like, how did all of this come about? Because I find it just really fascinating.
Well, I started playing classical music when I was 9 in the elementary school orchestra. Started taking private lessons and studying all throughout high school. I went to Interlochen arts camp every summer in high school and did everything, very strict classical training. But in the meantime, I was never really actively listening to classical music. If I had to learn a piece or a concerto, my teacher would be like, okay, you have to listen to this. And so I would only listen to it kind of like as much as I needed to. And then I would go and, I was into the Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam and Nirvana, like the big grunge era. So that was, kind of when I was 13 and like my first introduction to rock and alternative music at that time. So I went on to college, majored in classical music in viola performance. But I was kind of getting a little like burnout with like only playing classical music. And I was just so insanely jealous of all my friends in the jazz program, how they could just improvise and play anything off their head. And I would go to all these shows that all my friends had in like clubs, like after, late nights on the weekends in college. And I was so intrigued, and I'm like, why can't I do this? Like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know, what note to play, what song, like, how are they even like playing the song and making it just sound so much more elaborate? So I signed up for jazz improv class, and that kind of really changed my life in, the styles of music that I decided to do and kind of, push my boundaries.
Oh, that is amazing. That's cool. My mom was really into jazz. She's a classical pianist, and she also really introduced me to jazz. And I still love jazz music. It's like, it's soul moving to me. And
Yes.
It's just, there's something about it. I think it's in my DNA, probably a lot like yours, other than you play it. And I just appreciate it. So you play the viola and the fiddle and a pedal steel guitar. Like, I think that's really cool. And you've played with Deep Purple, one of my favorite bands. And like I told you before we started recording, that when we were racing sailboats when I was in high school, that was the band playing on the boat to get us all hyped up. And we won a lot thanks to that.
Oh, cool.
So I'm like thinking, oh, wow, how cool is that? So what turned you on to these 3 instruments? And then how did it develop into this international career and touring with some really amazing people and being on Grammy award-winning recordings? There's got to be a bridge.
Yeah. So let's see. I started playing viola and then, got into jazz. so that was my first introduction to improvising. Then I started playing fiddle only because I was so pro viola. Like I was like, a violist can do anything a violinist can. And I was just very like, I'm going to play everything on viola. And I started playing in rock bands in LA on viola. But it wasn't until I got hired to play in Shania Twain's band. The music director called me and was like, Andrea, do you play fiddle? I'm assuming you do. And I was like, well, yes, absolutely I do. And I was, the next day I went out and I bought my first violin, and I was like, what, maybe 31 at the time. So I hadn't even owned a violin until that age. I started going to like bluegrass jams, which I completely fell on my face. And I was trying to immerse myself in that style of music before the first rehearsal with Shania and the whole band. So that I started taking lessons with a fiddle player in Los Angeles, and just started transcribing a bunch of stuff. So it's a completely different way of improvising than jazz. So it did take me a second. I felt more comfortable in jazz and like a little bit of the rock scene, but then playing bluegrass style licks, like it was a total different, like, bowing and technique approach to the instrument. So fiddle playing came out of Shania Twain's band. But then during the first couple rehearsals with Shania, there was a pedal steel player in the band. And I had never seen that instrument in person. And I was just like so intrigued with it. I would sit there and I'd be, like playing my parts that I had learned, but all I would be doing was like watching the pedal steel player. And I was obsessed. And we were, we had this Vegas residency. So we were in Vegas for like 3 months, the first run. And I decided I bought a pedal steel off of eBay. I had it sent to my hotel room in Las Vegas, because we were kind of, hanging out in the same room for 3 months. So ordered my first pedal steel, and I would just, sit there at night and try to figure things out. So that was it. It was just like those sounds. I heard those sounds and I said, I need to make those sounds. And that was when I just decided to completely dive headfirst into pedal steel world.
And that's how gifted people with multi-potentialites do it. It's like when you're a multi-potentialite and you hear something and intrigues you, dive fully in and go after it. Mm-hmm. And that's it in real life. And so I just find that combination of instruments really fascinating and fun. I mean, it's really fun, and so it kind of goes with your personality. And then you also do a lot of art and fashion. Mm-hmm. And so how did the art and fashion come in? Okay, so you started playing music when you were 9, and then, we got that. Now, where did the art and fashion, or was it going along the same line, or how did that
It was
work?
always going along the same line. Yeah. I mean, before I started playing music, I thought I was going to be a visual artist. Like, in elementary school, you have the day where you dress up as like what you want to be when you grow up. And I would always dress up. I'd put on a little beret and have like a hat, like a shirt with like just splattered paint all over it. And I just wanted to be an artist, a painter. And that was it forever. So, I was drawing, every day of my life since I was like 18 months old. My mom said she'd just hand me like a pen and paper, and I would just be totally happy and content, my own little world drawing. So that has always just been an interest for me. And I've always done it alongside of music. And I double majored for a second in college in drawing and painting and music. And I just realized how insane that was. Like, it was just too much. It would be like 2 a.m. in the art studio or 3 a.m. in the music studio, like practicing painting. It was just, it was a lot. So I decided I would always keep my painting going on the side while I pursued a music degree. So at first I didn't want to choose, what my degree was going to be in, but then I was like, you should really focus on one thing and just graduate and then get out into the world. And then fashion, it kind of came from my grandmother on my mom's side. She would take me shopping all the time when I was younger and just buy me like matching socks, matching headband, matching shoes. Everything was just like this perfect little outfit. And growing up, my mom said on like the parent teacher conference days, the teachers would pull her aside and be like, your daughter is the best dressed student I've ever had. And it was just all because of my grandmother, like just going out and like spoiling her grandchildren. So from that, I just, I loved clothes. It was like this bonding experience I had with my grandmother. And I've just always been obsessed with fashion and, vintage clothing and anything really.
Oh, that's really fun. And so you brought up a really good point about priorities and timing of things. So here you are loving visual arts and painting, but also really loving music. And what you did was a really amazing thing by saying, okay, doing both of them at the same time isn't going to work, but I'm not really going to let them go. I'm just going to pick one for the degree, but keep the other one alive. And that's what people with multi-potential situations have to do, because if we try to do it all at once, we can create a crisis in our life, right? Like too many things, like you said, like, we're not going to stay up 24/7. That's not how that's going to work. And so that's a really good example of like just regular life, going through life and making that decision naturally. Okay, they're both a priority, but what's going to lead it in school for the degree? And then how is my other creative part of me going to still emerge in a really useful kind of fun way? So I really love how you shared like that, because I get a lot of people who ask me like, I want to do all of it and I can't do it all at once. And they burn themselves out and they get all stressed out. I'm like, well, you don't have to do it all at once. There's, you have lots of time for different iterations, different ways for it to show up in other creative ways. So I'm really glad you shared that. So you have a clothing line now, right?
I do. It's just something really small. I did like a little test run of about 100 dresses, 2 styles, 2 different fabrics. And, so it equals 4 dresses, really small run. I had them all made in downtown LA. I wanted everything to be made locally, and not outsourced. So yeah, it's just the first, little kind of experiment. I have, another design. I actually, for some flare pants that I hand drew the print for them. So that those are hopefully coming, this year. It's been kind of put on the back burner. I have so many projects, and I actually, like COVID, staying at home, I've realized how grateful I am to be able to work on these projects and finish them. So all these things, these ideas, and I've just, things that I just barely started, I'm actually like finishing them. So that's it's been a really, really great thing about staying at home.
How has COVID affected your creativity? And you're used to touring all around the world, and of course that stopped. But now you're home, and now you just said it, you're able to finish all these little creative ideas that are coming through. You're able to like look at them and bring them forward in a way that really works. How cool is that?
So cool. And I have more time for painting, and I kind of put my blog on the back burner for a second. I was still doing some fashion shoots and stuff, but I was focusing on like really just music for a while, and going in and out and doing a bunch of shows. I wasn't doing an international tour with Zucchero in 2019, but I had another project with a duo I have, and Katie and Andrea, and we were kind of just going in and out, and I didn't really allow myself enough time for my own painting, and there just really wasn't much time. So being at home, like I've gotten back into oil painting, really getting into more design work, getting into more graphic design on my iPad using Procreate, which is like so incredible to be able to like crank out a design and just email it to someone and not have to get it scanned. And it just eliminates so many steps, and the process is a lot quicker. On my own music, I mean, I've been doing my own music videos and like my own solo instrumental pedal steel songs and covers, and I have just like literally a laundry list of like what the next project, the next recording, who I'm collaborating with. It'll take me till like this time next year before I finish them all.
Well, there'll be more added, so you'll be like 900 years old by the time you get to the end, right? I just keep on going and going and going and going. So have you ever had time in your life where people didn't understand you, where you kind of felt like maybe you were different than all the people around you? Or have you mostly been around really great people that are gifted in the way you are?
Yeah, I mostly have been around. I'm very fortunate that my family sent me to Interlochen Arts Camp in high school. And that's really when it was like after my sophomore year in high school, it's like I found my people. It's like everyone there is doing something arts related, music, visual arts. I did a lot of ceramics and pottery throwing in high school as well. So, there were ceramicists I was really good friends with, and painters and photographers and, classical musicians, jazz musicians. And we were all just like, I had a group of like 20 really close friends that we'd go to camp every summer and, spend 8 weeks in a cabin in Michigan, just creating art. And that was so inspiring. So I think that surrounding myself with those people, it just really helped me to like kind of pick and choose my friend circles, like later on, like trying to surround myself with people that I really feel inspire me.
Right. And you already had the really good intimate experience of what it's like to be understood by people in that creative way. So as you're choosing friends in your adult life, it's probably been easier for you to discern, well, yeah, you're on my vibe. No, you're not, kind of simple, instead of going through your teen years, wondering what the vibe was and then trying to figure it out. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Cause it was a different vibe in high school. Like during the school year, I would spend my lunch periods with my art teacher. I would just be in the art room all day. And I just, I'm like, why should I just go sit in the cafeteria when I can just continue like working on my painting or something? So I was a little disassociated from my certain friend, the high school experience, like towards the end, because I was just so focused on the arts. But, having the arts camp every summer, that just really opened it up.
Oh, that's great. So when you think of things do you think in lyrics, like song lyrics? Do you think in pictures with color, or how does your brain process things? Like I work with a lot of musicians, and a lot of them will tell me that when they're thinking, it's always in song. There's always some kind of music in their thoughts. And I also work with some people who are artists, and I work with this one girl who does fashion design for the theater. So she'll get the play and then know what the time is and have to create and make all the costuming. And so she sees everything by texture and color. And so I'm curious, how does your brain do it?
Wow, that's a great question. I think just a little bit of everything. Like I always have music going on in my head where it's a song that I'm learning. Like a lot of times I'll obsess over learning like how to play something on pedal steel. And so it's on repeat and repeat and repeat in my head. It could be just like a 5-second lick or 30-second segment of a song that I'm visually like seeing myself playing pedal steel or fiddle or whatever. But then also like there is a lot of the visual element. Like I will sit down and I'll just something that I find like really intriguing to look at. I'll look at it and imagine how I would paint it or how I would draw it. I'll trace it with my eyes because I love doing contour drawings and, I put that into my paintings. So I'll sit there and I'll take someone's face. I mean, they probably don't even know. I'll be talking to them and I'll be like, like outlining their face, like how, what colors would I use? What, details would I do in watercolor? Would I paint them in oils? So I am always visually thinking about that. And then also, I'll put it together. Like, I have a lot of music in my head that I want to release, but I am just as excited to release a music video for it because I want to style it. I want to have a beautiful visual presentation. So while it gets me really excited to think about, something I'm going to create. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to film it here. This is who I want to film it. This is the outfit I want to wear. These are the colors. This is the whole, like the grand picture of it. So, I think everything's kind of going on at the same time.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. So does it ever get overwhelming with so many ideas in there all at one time that you want to tell your brain to be quiet, or does it kind of flow like?
Yeah, I think it just flows. I think that's just like what makes it, interesting every day. It's like, I try to stay excited about things. So if I always have something to look forward to, if I kind of get down or something, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to work on that project, so that kind of brings me out of like a rut, like thinking about something I'm going to create.
Well, that's really good too that you said that, because I know a lot of creative people get that kind of malaise or dysphoria, or they just kind of get down in a rut if they're creative flow isn't what they expect it to be, or they want it to be, or something's going on in their world, and they kind of let it drag them down for a minute. And so a really good way, like you're saying, is you don't have to stay there, because there's a whole list of things to create.
Whole list.
And pick one and just do anything, throw anything at it and start going. And then it takes on its own energy and its own way to come into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people listening to us today, and that are maybe stuck a little bit, and they want to do something creative, or they started and they gave up. Or I had a new client just the other day say, yeah, I used to draw a lot, but I haven't drawn in years. And so I said, go to the store and get things and start drawing again. And then that person did. And lo and behold, their creativity is coming back, right? They primed the pump a little bit and it just came back. So if somebody's listening to us and they're feeling kind of stuck, or they have a dream and they never really took the risk to do it, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere, whether it's, like going to the art store and just finding like a really beautiful, like notebook or something, or like paper that really speaks to you, or like a new pen or a new paintbrush. I think it's really important, if you are in a rut, to find something that could inspire you to start the project, like maybe listen, if you're a musician, like maybe dig into a new artist or like a new genre of music, and kind of just pull from something new and different, or I don't know. I hope that helps.
I think that's really helpful, because sometimes just changing it up like that. I know that I like to journal a lot, and it matters the feel of the notebook.
Yes.
Like when I touch it, and then when I open up, the paper has to be friendly to my hands. And then I have my special pen.
Yep.
And each notebook has its own special pen.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then it's funny, because somebody who I know in my mastermind kind of laughed at me the other day, because I have 4 different containers of pens on my desk and more behind me and some in a drawer, because I just never know what pen I'm going to want to use. Like sometimes I write with my pink flamingo pen.
Oh, that is adorable.
And sometimes I write with my heart pencil.
Yeah.
Right? I always have something to make it fun and creative, depending on what I'm writing. And so you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, you go whatever speaks to you. So how does your intuition play into all of this? Does it guide you a lot? Do you pay attention to it? Do you consider yourself intuitive? How is that as part of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely go with my intuition on things. And I mean, whatever I think is, whatever I get excited about or whatever inspires me, I'll go with it, because I don't want anything to be forced, and just someone saying you should do this and you should do that. Well, maybe it's a good idea. And if I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. If that inspires me, then I'll go for it. But if I hear something like, I'm not sure, I'll just always kind of just listen to my inner guide. And I think the important thing is not to do something for like the sole purpose of like making money or being successful. When I started playing pedal steel, it's actually turned out to be like such a wonderful part of my career, and is bringing me a lot more work and a lot more success, and is, it's part of my identity now. And when I heard that instrument, I wasn't thinking of any of that. I was just like, I'm so moved by this, and I need to make those sounds. Like nothing else mattered. It was just the fact that it came to me and it spoke to me. So yeah, I think just listening to yourself, because the more that you're excited about it, the more everyone else is going to be excited about it.
Oh, that's so true. It's sung to your heart and your soul. And that's all you could think. I have to make that sound. That's how I learned. That's how I learned how to quilt. I was volunteering with a friend of mine, and she showed me this picture. She goes, "I'm going to make this quilt." And I knew that she quilted. I didn't quilt. I sew, but I didn't quilt. And I saw it, and it looked 3-dimensional. And I'm like, well, I have to make that. I have to make that. I have to do that right there. I had no idea what it was going to take or anything about it. I didn't care. I wanted to do that thing. And so I dove headfirst into it and bought a really nice machine, a really good table. And now I make all kinds of quilts, and I'm having a blast, because it harmonizes your brain, the math and the creativity together. And so it's like therapy, but it was all because I had to make that particular thing. And it opened all these doors of my creativity, but also just of my happiness and joy and fun, and I make quilts for my friends and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I relate to that because I have to make that sound, and I'm ordering one, and I'm getting one right now, and I'm going to make that sound. And that's how gifted people do it. We just follow it down that rabbit hole like there's no tomorrow. And I'm sure all of y'all who are listening go, yeah, I've done that too, in different really cool ways. So see, we all might be a little different, but we're cool different, right? Which is what I love so much. So has there ever been a time where you had an intuition or your gut said one thing and you overrode it with your mind, and you look back and go, man, should have listened to my gut?
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, God, I can't really, I don't know. That's a very good question. I think, there's one time, this is just a very small thing. I'm sure something else has happened on a bigger scale, but I can't really think of it. It was when I first moved to Los Angeles, and, I really wanted to become like a session player. And I was also doing, teaching private lessons on the side. I still teach private lessons, and I love teaching. I think it's like such a wonderful thing to give back to the world. But I got called for a session. And I was like, well, oh shoot, I have a student that I have to teach, during the same time as the session. And so I turned down the session. And then I was like, oh my gosh, later, like a day later, I was like, I could have rescheduled this student. And, maybe that could have been the session that brought me more into, the studio scene in Los Angeles. And the student would have been like, it's totally fine. You can reschedule, people are very understanding. That was one thing that bothered me for a second, but you know what, that kind of stuff is like, everything just happens, and it all kind of ends up, you end up where you are supposed to be. So I don't really have like too many, I guess, regrets or things where I haven't listened to myself and wish I did something different. I can't really think of too many instances.
That's wonderful. Are you kidding me? That's wonderful. That you're not walking around with the heaviness of a lot of regret, which I think frees up a lot more space to be creative and let all of these really amazing things trying to come through you emerge into the world in a really creative way. I think that's amazing. Amazing, amazing. So I have a couple of other questions, but one of the things I would love for you to share a little bit is give everybody a little bit of a day in the life of Andrea. Like, you get up and you do special things, like you have routines for your self-care or creativity, or what it would be a flow of like a day. Now, granted, they're all different because you're creative and you do so many different things, but what would a day in the life be? Like, if somebody's going, man, I want to do those kinds of things. Well, this is kind of what it could look like.
Yeah. So every morning I try to wake up at like, I don't know, about 7:30 or 8 a.m. And I eat the same breakfast every morning. I've been eating the same breakfast for, gosh, like 15 years or more, probably. I eat oatmeal with peanut butter, coffee. I make French press. I have 2 cups of coffee. And then this is actually kind of a newer thing, since February, I've been working out every morning religiously. Just doing like a core, arm, leg kind of cardio weight training. So I do that right after breakfast, and then I sit down, I answer all my emails, anything that I have to do online, or, if I need to do a social media post or something, I try to do that like right after I'm done working out. And then it opens up to like, maybe I have, a session that I have to do. Maybe it's from home. Recently we've been able to do more sessions like outside of the home and meet up with people. So I've been doing that. Sometimes I have a student or 2 to teach. And then also, I'll definitely fit in time to practice. So, I always have things that I want to learn. I'm always striving to learn something new on my instruments. So, I'll budget in as much time as I can to practice. And then doing something, some sort of visual arts, the visual arts doesn't happen, and maybe it doesn't happen as much as I would like it to, but I've been getting, a handful of commissions. So the commissions actually, it's great because I'm still working and it's keeping, my painting going and my visual arts kind of moving. So, any given day I could have a commission artwork that I have to work on, or music, or, and this is basically has been the COVID routine.
Right.
So, before this, a lot of times, like on the road, I'd be gone, with Zucchero about 5 months or 6 months out of the year. And those days are so fun because after the show, you get on the tour bus, you hang out with your band, you stay up a little late, then you go to sleep on the bus, you wake up in a brand new city. I get on my Happy Cow app, which is the vegan finder app. I find all the vegan restaurants in the neighborhood, wherever we are in Europe. Go to the neighborhood, go to the music shops, eat great food, wander around, maybe if we have a show that day, go to sound check, everything's set up. My tech hands me my instruments, play a show. So that the road life is a completely different experience. Yeah. That's kind of more, everything's a little bit more taken care of, and you're on a time frame. People are like, be here, they pick you up, they take you there, they drop you off. You really kind of don't have to think on the road except play your instrument, which is great. So it's kind of a dual reality from, being at home and having to stay self-motivated / when you're touring, you're getting paid to do that one job, and that's all you have to do. You have to be on stage and be present and look good and play excellent, and that's it.
Right. And other people behind the scenes are taking care of everything. And I've toured with a lot of musicians as their intuitive mentor person. So I'm with them behind the scenes in the green room and backstage and doing things. And the first few times I did that and everything was taken care of, I was like, whoa, okay, well, this is a lot easier than I expected. I didn't really know at the time. And now I have that experience and I'm like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So when anyone goes to a concert, they just see the show, and there's so much more going on to get all those performers there, to get it all done, to get everything set up, the sound check, everything. It's so elaborate, and it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And I've been on all different levels of touring, touring where I am just hauling all my own gear, doing all my own setup, doing all my own teardown. And that is just extremely exhausting, planning my own travel, like actually physically getting there by myself or with someone else. Or, a level where, we're flying business class and, the hotel rooms, everything's planned, they have my certain dietary restrictions, all the meals are taken care of, you're handed per diem, go have fun, go explore the city. So yeah, and I, from doing all different levels of touring, I totally appreciate, when there's a whole team behind the production, and making it happen and making it easier for the artist, because then we can do our job better.
Right. It takes a lot of that extra stress and exhaustion. So then the gift comes through even stronger.
Even stronger. So, right. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So is there any opportunities that you would like to see coming in the future? Like when you look forward in your life with all these creative ideas and pursuits and things you're getting to do because of COVID, are there any opportunities that you're really excited about when you look forward that you would like to just bring into your life?
Yes, absolutely. I really want to, do more with my pedal steel playing and make that an even bigger part of my identity as a musician. Along with fiddle and viola too, but I think playing that instrument is such a unique thing. There's not that many pedal steel players in the world in general, and very, very few female players. So it's a pretty unique thing, and I would love to be asked to be a guest artist, and play with all my favorite bands. I have a whole list of people that I would absolutely love to collaborate with and play with. And I would love to be called and brought out to a show or two and to be able to, play and accompany other people in their music, and just music that I've grown up listening to and just love. So that's really kind of my big goal.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And I'm sure it will happen. So everybody, you're listening to Andrea Whitt, and I know you're really inspired like I am. And I'm going to put in the show notes her website and her YouTube channel so you can watch her, because I have checked out her YouTube channel and I was watching some of her performances, and I can tell you they're jaw dropping. And I have a lot of appreciation for music, and I'm real picky too. Like, I'm quite picky. I know good music from not so good music. And I was just, whoa, I really liked her energy when I met her. And then I heard her music. I'm like, anywhere she's playing, I'm going to go be there. I could tell you that. So just thought I'd let you know, if you see some crazy blonde in the front row, it'll be me. It'll be me. Don't be surprised. So was there anything that you wanted to share with everybody that I didn't ask you about? Because I have two final questions, but I really want to make sure that anything you wanted to share and bring to the table that I maybe didn't say or ask you. Is there anything?
Oh, you've been so thorough and wonderful questions. So yeah, I don't think. I'd love to hear your last two questions.
All right. So the second to last question is, of all the places you've traveled, thinking about your whole life, what is the most memorable food you've eaten? The most memorable food.
Most memorable food. Oh my gosh. So many. There's this one. Okay. So I'm vegan, and, traveling around the world, there's actually like a ton of like amazing, vegan restaurants, or like in Europe, especially, they're very accommodating, for vegetarians and vegans. I did cheat a little bit, and I tried this really exceptional chocolate cake in Paris. I love chocolate. I love dark chocolate. I don't think it was vegan. That was one. I mean, it was just like the most perfect chocolate cake. I just took like a couple bites, and I'm like, I have to cheat on this one. That was incredible. Let's see. I mean, food. Oh, actually, in Greece has really incredible food there. And I had this one salad. It sounds so simple. But all it was black-eyed peas. I get so excited. I'm talking about vegetables. Black-eyed peas, cucumbers, dill, avocado, and lemon juice and olive oil. And it was just like the most simple salad, but it was just so satisfying. And I was just like I was in Mykonos, and it was just like the most gorgeous scene, like the beach. And I'm eating this like beautiful salad that just feels, I always feel so good eating healthy. It gives you so much more energy. So it's just, that was like such a simple thing, but like very memorable. I remember every ingredient in that salad.
Oh, it sounds delicious. Sounds absolutely delicious. So there you go. Two favorite foods. Now the final question that I love to ask, especially for people who've been all around the world, because I think there's always these interesting experiences to draw from. And the question is this: we're going to create a billboard that the whole world is going to see with Andrea Whitt's quote on it. What do you want the whole world to see as they travel by on this billboard from you?
Oh, I don't have like a list of quotes in my head. I feel like it should be the time I should start remembering quotes.
It can be something that you say to yourself. It doesn't have to be a famous quote. It can just be like, what would you like the world to see, or from you to the world?
Let's see. Maybe just believe in yourself.
Beautiful.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe
beautiful.
That's it. Okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, because think about how many people don't believe in themselves, or they have a lot of doubt, and then they end up with regret. And you just spent all this time speaking about how you've been able to use your intuition and follow your creative genius and let your multi-potentialities work together in your favor. So that's a beautiful one. Believe in yourself. See? Perfect. I love it.
Oh, well, you brought that out in me, Diane. Thank you.
All right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I want to thank you for being on the show and taking time out of your life to share with us. I'm totally inspired by you, the woman, by you, the performer and the artist and the creative genius. And it's people like you living your passion that I think make this world a better place. So thank you for sharing that with us on the show. And I'm so glad you're in my life. Thank you so much.
Right back at you, Dianne. Thank you so much.
All right, and everybody, you've been listening to Andrea Whitt. All of her contact information and her bio are in the show notes, so let her know you heard her here. And in the meantime, keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a purpose. So go out there and let your light shine and be the brilliant lighthouse that you're meant to be. See you next time. Be well.
Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.